because I'm sick and tired of him putting out these amazing books and me not having the brain capacity with my one functioning brain cell to finish them. Greetings, royalty, because I think that is a better way to address you, the special you that clicked on this video. My name is Olivia and welcome to my realm. Today I'm doing my January 2025 TBR, whose 12 novels and novellas, 4 of which are library books, 1 ebook, and 2 audiobooks split into 2 parts, so technically 4, but neither here nor there. It is a very ambitious TBR, but I've already finished 1 book on the list, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. But that's enough talking. Let's get started. I'm going to try to do this TBR pretty quickly, but we'll see how this goes. First up is a novel I'm reading for Romantasy, a board game themed romance challenge that is a year long. It says to read a book who's a morally gray character that gets a happy ending or a redemption arc. And in my case, I decided to read The Fall That Saved Us by Tamara, Jerée, that involves an angel-touched former demon slayer who falls in love with a fallen demon, a succubus, a Nephilim, in a forbidden romance where both characters find redemption. I also have the special edition of this book from Rainbow Book Crate, and I'm really hoping this is a 5-star read. The second book on my January 2025 TBR is something that has been on my TBR for ages. It's a lush, West African-inspired young adult fantasy romance, A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, which features 2 teenagers swept up in magical blood debts that end up falling in love with the explicit purpose of double-crossing each other. I'm reading this for Books and Lala's Buzzworthathon cover challenge, which asks us to read something with a repeating pattern on the cover. I have high hopes for this book because it's been on my TBR for so long, and I hope I love it so I can finish the duology and get the second book in the set. Third is also a part of Books and Lala's Buzzworthathon challenge, but this time the reading challenge, which prompts us to read a book with either truth or lies or lie on the cover. So I'm reading First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston, which is a thriller I got from Book of the Month, a monthly subscription. Honestly, I want to say like a year or 2 ago, but never got around to reading. It has a pretty exciting premise with the female main character essentially being like this secret agent. She has this fake identity and is living with a man that I believe she's falling in love with, but has to stay 2 steps ahead of. I'm excited about it. I don't know what to expect. I also got the audiobook for Libby so I can listen to it as I read. Because while I read thrillers, I don't read them as often. And so I think it'll be helpful because I am dyslexic. And so if there is an audiobook, I'm always singing praises Most High because it helps me a lot to get through novels. Now we're shifting into a bunch of books I'm reading for the 52 Book Club's 2025 challenge, where we're tasked with reading 52 books in 12 months, which is a pretty hefty amount of books. But my personal challenge this year is to read 100 books. So I thought, what better way than complete a reading challenge that is a little over half. So the very first book up can actually count for 3 of the prompts, one being sold over 1 million copies, the second being an author who releases multiple times a year, and the third being having a celebrity on the cover. And that's Along Came a Spider, the very first novel in the Alex Cross series by James Patterson. I kind of want to do a mixture of a reading / first time watching vlog because I've held out on watching the Prime series of the novel, and I kind of want to compare and contrast the adaptations. I've never seen it nor read the series, so I think that's going to be really exciting. Next up is 52 Book Club's prompt that we read a book where the cover font is in a primary color. While I'm kind of cheating because this color is more neon / lime green. Green is still a primary color and it's a novella, so it gives me a little bit of a break. And that is Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. Graveyard Shift is a horror novella where 5 strangers end up on like this really creepy college graveyard and like weird, crazy shit happens. I'm excited to read this because I love horror and I love a good novella. I feel like the novella format is just perfect for most horror because it's just long enough to get you excited and your blood pumping, but not too long that it drags, because let's face it, a lot of horror, like romance, is formulaic. It's genre fiction. And so to really be shocking, most of the time for me, who is a horror addict, a hardcore gore hound, you have to do something twisty, and with less words, you have a better chance with me of shocking me than going on and on and on and trying to build up to that gory crescendo. Though I don't know if this will be gory, but it's giving gory. I mean, look at this mushroom infected carcass of a rat on the cover. Next up can actually count towards 52 book clubs. I think it was blue, a prompt that kind of harkens back to that common refrain of customers coming into bookstores and not really knowing what the book is and just saying, I think the cover was blue. But it can also count for Buzzwordathon's violent word challenge, where it's something like stabbing, death, disaster, famine, just violent words. It's one of the prompts. And that is Dead Girls by, I believe her name is Nekesa Afia, but don't quote me on that. I didn't look it up before I started the video. This is book 1 in the Harlem Renaissance Mystery series, set in 1926. This story follows Louise Lloyd, a young Black woman who is trying her best to run away from the past. She's living with her girlfriend, doing her best to just move forward in her life after a terrible, brutal kidnapping when she was a teenager. However, after 2 more young Black girls end up dead, she is swept up into the investigation and has to catch a murderer before he strikes again. I've been so excited to read this book forever. I actually accidentally got the second book in the series. I think it's a trilogy, and started reading that. It's not supposed to be read in order from what I understand. It's like episodic, but I feel like reading this will really help me get into the second book in the series. So I'm excited. I don't know if I'll do it for the blue cover challenge or the violent word challenge yet, but either way, I hope I get through this, and it's a 5-star read. Next up is a book that I have been seeing literally everywhere online, especially on Amazon. It is a romantasy about basically a mercenary and this woman who has magic. And the thing that really drew me in is that the author promotes it by saying that the hero leaves the heroine for dead, like literally for dead, by a river, and somehow they fall in love. So it really does sound like enemies to lovers, not the watered down stuff that usually is there. While enemies to lovers is usually not a trope I tend to love, and one of my bookish outs for this year is not reading tropes that I don't really mess with. I really want to give this series a chance because it's been drawing me in and calling me for a long time. And that is A Court This Cruel and Lovely. I believe Stacia Stark, don't quote me again because I haven't looked up her name, Kingdom of Lies, book 1. I am excited for 52 book clubs, 300 to 400 page prompt, and as you can see, this is one chonker of a book. So books 8 and 9 on my January TBR are actually audiobooks, and they're 2-part audiobooks produced by GraphicAudio, my favorite audiobook company. It's basically a movie in your ears. They're all multiple narrators. They have music, they have sound effects. I mean, it's just top tier for me. I can't describe it. It's really cinematic. It sounds like if I was listening to a play happen on stage, and it just excites me because a lot of books will never really see TV adaptations or movies, and so GraphicAudio is as close as possible. It really immerses me in the fiction. And the first one I actually already finished, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, aka ACOTAR. I have had this floating on my TBR nebulously for, probably the decade it's been out. I, for whatever reason, do not really mess with Sarah J. Maas's writing that much. I don't think she's a bad writer by any means. It's just I've never been drawn in enough to finish a single book of hers, unfortunately. But I feel like the GraphicAudio I listened to took it to another level and helped me get through it. And for me, I feel like ACOTAR was digestible and enjoyable because it felt like I was listening to a movie, or listening to a movie in my ears. I feel like I didn't really get into the world because it's a world that, for me at least, is very visuals heavy. I love the very subtle Beauty and the Beast retelling. Being able to read it was really nice, even if I just listened to it. I will be doing a full review and also documenting it in my reading journal. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe so you can get to see when I do my reading journal wrap up at the end of the month. And the next book I'm listening to, also produced by GraphicAudio, is the first book in the Crescent City series. This one, I'm not sure how I'll do. I don't feel like I'll read further in the ACOTAR series because the first felt like, you know, it was there if you don't count the epilogue. It was a standalone Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it was satisfying for me. I lived through Twilight. I do not want to read Tamlin character assassination. I don't want to really read anything else in it because it's a lot of tropes I hate. And the Crescent City series, I feel like it's similar, but we'll see. I really enjoyed A Court of Thorns and Roses, and so I feel like with the GraphicAudio, I have a really decent shot of giving, if not a 4-star, a 5-star to the next book in the Maas universe. The 10th book I'm reading is a really exciting read because it's actually an omnibus of 3 different romances that will count for 3 different prompts for my upcoming Omegaverse reading challenge that I'll be announcing very, very soon. I'll link the story graph challenge below if you want to join early before I announce it, because it has the rules and the prompts there. But basically, I'm an Omegaverse fanatic. I love Omegaverse. And so I thought, what else would be better than starting a reading challenge that's Omegaverse themed? Because I don't really know of one right now. And if there is one, hello, let me join yours. Without further ado, what is the book? It is The Orc Prince Trilogy by Lionel Hart, which I got signed at Steamy LitCon. And I also got some adorable chibi stickers as well as this sword theme bookmark that is pretty dope. I have actually already read the first book, so I think I said 1, but I lied. I'm actually 2 books down for my January TBR, so let's go. But I am addicted to this book. I'm actually listening to it using Kobo Plus's audiobook feature because I have the ebook and audiobook bundled, and I'm addicted. Jeremy Fraser really brings the characters to life, and I've just been blowing through it. I'm also reading the book at the same time because, again, dyslexic, but honestly, sometimes I just find myself in the car listening to the audiobook alone. It's just that good. Now, technically, this story is Omegaverse light because while it has a lot of Omegaverse tropes, like impreg, for example, and so on, it actually isn't billed as a true Omegaverse. That said, it still counts. Why? Because I want to read the series. This story follows the crown prince of the Elven Kingdom, Prince Tegan Glenzeros, engaged to Zorvat, an enemy from the Orc tribe who has been at war with the elves for centuries, and they're the very first union of their kind. It has some really cool fantasy elements, one being that married elven couples get like a mind link so they can communicate their emotions mentally to each other, which you would think helps with the miscommunication from being from 2 different tribes, but if anything, deepens it because they are trying to navigate the feelings of someone else through a tether/bond. I am blowing through these audiobooks. I actually had to stop myself in December of last year from finishing this whole omnibus because I was like, Olivia, you're trying to read this for 2025 for reading challenges, and so I had to slow down. But I'm probably going to blow through the rest of this in like a weekend. I love this book in this series so much, and I really hope it sticks the landing because book 2 is already heating up. And for the last of my reading challenge books, I have The Dating Countdown by N.G. Peltier, which I'm reading on my Kobo Libra color. I freaking adore it. I love how it's decorated. And yeah, this is a contemporary lesbian romance, and it features, and it's set on the Island Bites series, which actually has 2 books that are MF, like a straight couples. The Dating Countdown features a single mother who comes back to her hometown and the woman she left behind, in a sense, because they were fooling around but never serious. But now that woman wants to win her heart, take care of her daughter, you know, the traditional traditional contemporary romance small town trope, but make it lesbian. I'm excited for this book because I'm reading it for the Diverse Trope Challenge. And all these challenges I'll link below. I'm tracking them all on Storygraph, which is really helping my sanity because these are a lot of books. But basically, the Diverse Trope Challenge is challenging us to read diversely with themes. So for January, it was Best Friends to Lovers, and these two were best friends / are still friends, and so I felt like it would be a great book to read. And finally, the rapid fire of, oh crap, I have to return these to the library this month. And these are 4 books I checked out actually in December, but they kept getting renewed and I'm on my final renewal for them. So let's see if I do one by one. First up is The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Djèlí Clark, which is just a novella that features society of undead assassins. Basically, they're zombie assassins, if you want to be very literal. And Evine, the eviscerator, breaks one of their sacred rules and causes mayhem to happen. P. Djèlí Clark is an author who I've been reading on and off, but cannot seem to finish any of his books for years. All of them that I have are novellas, so it makes no sense. Like, I've gotten, I think, twice halfway through The Black God's Drums and keep finding a way to not finish. So I am either going to finish this novel or I'm going to do a 24-hour reading challenge, what have you, that is just reading his entire catalog because I'm sick and tired of him putting out these amazing books and me not having the brain capacity was my one functioning brain cell to finish them. Book 12 on my January 2025 TBR is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. This is another genre-aware horror that comes from the perspective of a teenage serial killer. From the description, 2 teenagers in a small Texan town back in 1989 end up making the town infamous because of a slasher spree that happens. I'm very interested in this because, as I stated before, I am a gore hound. I am very much a lover of the horror genre, be it movies, fiction, you name it. And so I really like when people do something interesting with horror, and I feel like the perspective of a teenage slasher is something very interesting. I also have the author's Less Accessible, The Last Final Girl, which is kind of like this, it's kind of like the narrator is filming a movie as you read it. It's a little harder to read, and so I'm hoping I Was a Teenage Slasher is more accessible, and then I can come back to this book that I actually own. Next up, we have The Night Ends With Fire by KX Song, which is a young adult high fantasy romance inspired by the legend of Mulan. First up, I just want to say, if I was this author, I would be crying blood tears from happiness because, to my knowledge, this is not a special edition. And hot off the press, this is one of the most gorgeous books I've ever seen. Look at these edges. Look at the end papers. I have no other words. But what is the story? So Meilin, our Mulan substitute, I guess, joins the army to save the 3 kingdoms from collapsing. But she is then thrust into a love quad between Sky, who I'm thinking is like one of her friends, Water Dragon Spirit, and an enemy prince. So I'm like, girl has a lot of action going on, as well as a lot of action because she's fighting. So all that to say, this sounds right up my alley, and I am pretty sure I'll get to this one because if nothing else, I'll drop the other books to read it. In the 15th and final book, though, honestly, my brain is not working. So if this is more than 15 books, don't mind me, is The Serpent and the Wolf by Rebecca Robinson. This is a debut romantasy and is part of a duet. And honestly, I think what drew me to this is that it reads a lot like the manhwa I read on Manta that feature like these either like reincarnations of women or like historical fantasies in which women are married off for political reasons, try to escape those marriages, and then end up falling in love. I am addicted to that genre of comics or webtoons, and this sounded a lot like this, where a woman who has this dark magic inside of her is married off by her brother in one last political scheme to take over the enemy prince's territory. However, they end up striking a deal in their fake marriage to basically jostle for power together, and of course, you know, they're gonna fall in love. So I'm excited about this one too. Not as excited to throw away the rest of my TBR, but excited enough. And that's only because Christmas came late for romance readers, and I downloaded like 300 romance books, including Romantasy, for Stuff Your E-Reader Day back in December. But even though I have a lot of Romantasy to choose from, I'm still interested enough in this that I hope I can get to it. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this January TBR. Like I said, like and subscribe if you want to see reading wrap-ups and reading journal updates throughout the year. I am super hyped and really hopeful that I can finish all these books, but we'll see what happens. And if you made it this far in this video, I want to know, what is the book that you really want to finish on your January TBR? For now, farewell. Until next time.